The 7th episode of Stranger Things Season 1 is titled The Bathtub. The episode begins with Mike, Dustin, and Eleven at Mike's home when they hear Lucas calling for them on the walkie-talkie. The signal is terrible, so they can't comprehend what Lucas is saying at first, but they soon realize he's saying, "bad men." Dustin looks out the window when he sees a van with Hawkins Laboratory printed on it. Around 10 more such vans gather outside Mike's home in the blink of an eye. The kids run out the back door and make a run for it, just as Dr. Brenner arrives on the scene. They get on their bikes and meet up with Lucas while the cars chase them. The kids get boxed in when the vans approach them from both ends, and it looks like they won't be able to escape. Eleven, however, had other ideas. Using her awesome powers, she flips the van approaching them from the front and flings it over the top of their heads, in front of the cars approaching them from the back. The kids are thus able to get away. Mike's mom goes down to the basement and finds some hair belonging to a girl and assumes that Mike is actually keeping a girl down in the basement. Dr. Brenner and other agents knock on the Wheelers' door and ask Mike's parents about the whereabouts of Mike and the other. Meanwhile, the kids find their way to an abandoned car lot and plot how to get into the government facility. Lucas tells them that the military and a lot of guards are outside the lab, so it's going to be very hard to break into the lab. They spot a helicopter heading their way, so they quickly dispose of their bikes under a rusty bus and get inside it to hide. Hopper also learns that Eleven is with Mike and the others when Troy, the bully who held a knife to Dustin, comes to the police station to report his broken arm. Troy tells them that there was this girl with a shaved head with supernatural abilities that hangs out with these losers, referring to Mike and others. Hopper and Joyce head back to the police station after Hopper receives a radio message that Jonathan Byers has been arrested. When they get there, Hopper goes through the trunk of Jonathan's car and finds all the supplies Jonathan and Nancy had bought from the hardware store to make the bear trap. He asks Jonathan what the meaning of all this is, to which Jonathan replies that he wouldn't believe him, but Hopper tells him, "Try me." They all exchange their sides of the story, and the gravity of the situation quickly dawns on them. Hopper, Joyce, Nancy, and Jonathan quickly sit in the chief's car and head over to Mike's home. They see the swarm of cars and activity outside Mike and Nancy's home and decide against going in. Hopper asks Nancy if she has any idea where they might be. Jonathan says he might know how to find them and quickly goes home to find Will's walkie-talkie. Nancy and Hopper ask the kids about their whereabouts and tell them this is an emergency. The kids see 2 cars stopped just outside their hiding place and 3 agents with guns step out. But just as they are about to open the door to the bus in which they were hiding, Hopper gets there, knocks out the 3 agents, and takes the kids out of there. Hopper brings the kids back to the Byers' residence, where Joyce, Jonathan, and Nancy are already waiting. Mike, Dustin, and Lucas explain everything to the adults regarding the Upside Down, its gateway and entrance, and how to get there. With the government closing in on them, Nancy asks Eleven if she can find out about Barb and Will. Eleven proposes using her telekinetic abilities to create a sensory deprivation tank, or as she calls it, a bathtub, which will allow her to locate Will and communicate with him through the void. Dustin calls Mr. Clark and finds out how to make a sensory deprivation tank. Dustin tells them they will require at least 1,500 pounds of salt to make this work. They quickly go out and about and start gathering the accessories to make the tank, while Hopper, after promising to find Will, goes to find the salt. Eleven enters the tank and delves into the void, the pitch-black room in Eleven's mind when immersed in a psychic state, to find Will and Barb. In a surreal and disorienting experience, she locates the dead body of Barb with snake-like creatures squelching and coming out of her mouth. Eleven begins shouting, "Gone! Gone!" telling Nancy and the others that Barb is indeed dead. Eleven gets scared, but hearing Joyce's reassuring voice telling her she's okay, she calms down and starts looking for Will. She spots Will trapped in the Byers' castle, in the alternate dimension, and tormented by the monstrous entity. With sheer determination, Eleven reaches out to Will, reassuring him that they will save him. Will, in a very weak voice, tells them to hurry. Eleven, having successfully contacted Will, collapses from exhaustion. Hopper and Joyce tell the kids to stay put while they leave the house to go look for Will in the alternate dimension. Joyce tells Jonathan to stay back and look over the kids, but he and Nancy decide to finish what they started and kill the monster themselves. Hopper and Joyce enter the Hawkins lab premises but are caught by the guards there, who point their guns at the pair. Meanwhile, a weak Will wakes up from his sleep in the alternate dimension. As he slowly comes to his senses, he hears growling just outside his tent and comes to the somber realization that maybe the monster has found him. This concludes the 7th episode of Stranger Things Season 1. The 8th episode of Stranger Things Season 1 is titled The Upside Down. The episode begins with Joyce handcuffed to the chair of an interrogation room in the Hawkins lab. Dr. Brenner comes in and tells her that he just wants to help and save Will, but that he can't do so without Joyce's help. He asks her to tell him everything she knows, but Joyce sees right through him. She tells him that he took her boy away from her and made them all think that he was dead. He even made them have a funeral and bury his body. Joyce says she won't ever help him. Meanwhile, Hopper is being held captive by other agents in another room of the lab, where he is being repeatedly shocked by a taser while they interrogate him. The agents ask him about his knowledge regarding the activities at the lab, and he tells them that he knows everything and that he sent a copy of all he knows to his friend in the Times, suggesting that they should either let them go or face the consequences of being exposed to the press. Dr. Brenner then visits the room where Hopper is being held captive and asks him for Eleven's whereabouts. Hopper tells him that if he lets them go search for Will in the Upside Down and promises to leave the other kids alone, he'll tell him where Eleven is. Dr. Brenner agrees to Hopper's offer and sets them free. Joyce and Hopper then suit up in protective suits adapted to protect them from the toxic environment of the alternate dimension and proceed to enter the Upside Down, while Dr. Brenner, along with 2 full military trucks, drive off to find Eleven. Meanwhile, Nancy and Jonathan, ignoring what Joyce had told them, decide to summon the monster forth by cutting their hands and letting their blood drip. Steve suddenly knocks on Jonathan's door to apologize, but is surprised to find Nancy there. Nancy tells Steve to leave, but when he doesn't, she pulls a gun on him, at which point the lights in the house begin to blink, and the monstrous creature, dubbed by the kids as the Demogorgon, makes a terrifying appearance in the real world. As the creature emerges, Nancy and Jonathan's trap for the monster at the buyer's residence takes a terrifying turn. Armed with a shotgun, the two attempt to fend it off, pushing their courage to the limit. The Demogorgon, however, proves to be more resilient and cunning than they anticipated and disappears from Jonathan's home. Nancy then tells Steve to leave immediately, as the monster can return any minute. Steve attempts to leave, but just as he is about to get in his car, he sees the lights in the house flicker, which means the monster has arrived. He goes back in to help with a bat with spikes on it, while Nancy shoots at the monster. Jonathan tries to fend it off, but the monster overpowers and throws him on the ground. Steve, however, is able to strike it multiple times, and with the help of some shots from Nancy's gun, they're able to push it back, and the monster's foot gets caught in the bear trap. Jonathan quickly sets the monster on fire, and the monster shrieks as he gets burnt. When Jonathan extinguishes the fire, however, the monster is no longer there. Meanwhile, Dr. Brenner and his team make their way to the Hawkins Middle School, where Eleven and the boys are hiding. Upon learning of their arrival, the kids attempt to escape, but are soon boxed in by agents on all sides. The agents proceed to point their guns at the kids, but Eleven, in a daunting display of her supernatural abilities, makes the agents bleed from their eyes and then snaps their necks, instantly killing them as she passes out from exerting so much energy. Dr. Brenner then picks up Eleven in his arms and tells her that she's sick, but that he will take her home and make her well again. Eleven, however, tells him that he's bad and calls for Mike instead, who's apprehended by an agent. At the very next moment, the Demogorgon, smelling all the blood dripping from the dead agents, makes its appearance. The agents start shooting at it, and the boys grab Eleven and run away. Meanwhile, the kids face the monstrous creature head-on, engaging in a tense and emotional confrontation. Eleven, tapping into her psychic powers, unleashes her full potential to combat the creature, showcasing the extent of her abilities. She pushes the creature back into the wall and walks towards it. She turns back for a very last look and says goodbye to Mike. Eleven, in a moment of selflessness, uses her powers to eliminate the creature, but disappears in the process. The emotional resonance of this sacrifice is palpable as the kids look around for her, and, when they can't find her, mourn the loss of their newfound friend. Back in the Upside Down, Joyce and Hopper stumble upon the heart-wrenching truth about Will's condition. He is found trapped in a cocoon-like structure, with a slimy tendril-like creature in his mouth. Hopper takes the creature out and shoots at it, instantly killing it. They notice that Will isn't breathing, so Hopper proceeds to press down on Will's heart repeatedly and to administer CPR in the hopes of reviving him. Will finally coughs and starts breathing as Joyce gives him her mask to help him breathe. The episode concludes with a bittersweet reunion. Will is reunited with his family and friends, who are happy to see him in the hospital, recovering. Then we are shown the boys enjoying a game of Dungeons and Dragons in Mike's basement, and a party being held at the police station to celebrate Will's return, where he is dubbed the boy who came back to life. However, the shadow of the Upside Down still lingers. Will catches a glimpse of the Upside Down in the real world while he is washing his hands in the bathroom, hinting at unresolved mysteries, the potential return of the supernatural entities, and the chilling realization that Will is still not safe. This concludes the 8th and final episode of Stranger Things, Season 1. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please be sure to comment, hit the like button, and subscribe.